Composer, artistic director of the Sarmat and Astana Sazy ensembles, author of numerous works for rather creative teams, author of the music for films and theatrical performances, winner of international and Republican creative contests, Bauyrzhan Aktayev talked about the challenges of the national art development at the Culture Talks program. In addition to qobuz and dombra, Kazakhs have many other national instruments that you glorify. Which ones have you brought with you today? Of course, I took the Kazakh dombra. In addition, I brought a rare species of shankobuz, Jibek. In Kazakh, we call it agash shankobuz, and the Kyrgyz call it Jigach. I brought several types of shankobuz, they all different tone. God willing, today I will play them for you. You are one of those musicians who arrange national songs. You have probably noticed that frequently the older generation does not welcome the fact that national music takes some other form. In general, does the national art require additional arrangement? And if so, have you ever wondered what we should be beware of while doing this? Of course, I think about it. Not everyone can do this. Kui, folk songs, should not be arranged without deep understanding. Before working with national music, it is necessary to study properly and know its history. It is very important, because if music loses its originality, it will be a crime. There is such a concept, form, as for example jazz, or in the classics, sonata, and so on. If you take a folk melody and work within the framework of these forms, then there is nothing reprehensible in this, since they have their own line, their own laws of development. When you make an arrangement for folk orchestras and ensembles, you also cannot change the basis of the melody. It is very important, because it is impossible to separate culture and history from each other. All works appeared in a certain historical period or during a certain event. Therefore, this music cannot be taken out of history. If the arrangement makes the work unrecognizable, then this can be considered a crime in relation to history and culture. I think so. Therefore, before making an arrangement, you must first of all know the history of the origin of the melody. What does it keep? The second question is the professional competence of the composer, who must bring the arrangement to the modern audience so that they like it. This is also important. To do this, the composer must be professionally competent. These are the things you need to pay attention to. In our time, the preferences of the public are completely different. Now is the time when people have ceased to distinguish black from white. You have to give each audience what they want. Sometimes we just have to make an arrangement so that young people like it. That's why we are taking such steps. But the value of the Kazakh music is that it does not need additional arrangement. But Kazakh music needs a listener. And if it is not listened to, it will not be passed down from generation to generation. Do you now work more as an arranger, or you give main preference to creating original compositions? Being part of the culture environment, I always devote my work to where, in my opinion, creativity is lacking. Though I studied as a dombra player, I became a composer. It is worth noting that today's professional composers are trained according to European standards. Accordingly, it is somewhat far from traditional music. If you look closely at what kind of music they have been writing lately, then it becomes sad. I will not say that everyone, but mostly. As an artist-composer, I wanted my work to develop on a par with all my other skills. Since we started talking about composing, we would like to listen to one of your works. Well, as they say, a real Kazakh is a dombra. I will play this instrument. I have a piece, Kayram Elim, for dombra. This kui has two meanings. Saying Kayran, Kazakhs express two feelings, surprise or bitterness. There are many questions that cause regret and even tears of people, but there are also joyful moments. With this in mind, kui carries two such conflicting feelings at the same time. Wonderful. Since you came here with Shankobiz, play for us, please. What piece would you like to perform? I will perform an excerpt from the folk kui Kos Alka on the Jibek instrument. See, it has a special sound. It's made of oak, hardwood, so it doesn't break when you play. The Kyrgyz call it zhigach and we call it agash shankobiz. In general, any instrument evolves when it has its own repertoire and when it has its own listeners. But this is a slightly lagging instrument. Bolat Saribaya found it when he was excavating in the vicinity of Turkestan and Oturaz. This instrument comes from the Turkic peoples. According to science, its sound is called transpositional. That is, if it is written in one octave, then it is heard one octave lower. I will perform an excerpt from the folk kui Kos Alka. You see, its sound is very pleasant, velvety. For this instrument I wrote the work Dedication to Shankobiz. Today you came with not one, but two Shankobiz. They are not alike. They are absolutely different. One of them is made of wood, the second is an iron Shankobiz. It is not transpositional. I mention this so that if any of the composers watches our interview and wants to use this instrument in his work, he will take this into account. From the point of view of professionalism, you need to pay attention to this. It is not transpositional. It is both written and heard in one octave. Now I will play Kui Hunter's Sorrow, which was written by Razdek Kui performer. It is also called a folk kui, since this instrument is made of iron. In comparison with Agash Shankobiz, its tone is higher. We shouldn't divide them according to their importance. We have one mistake. We often perceive the frequently used instrument as value, and what is not particularly popular and not so often used is out of value. Whether it is a small or a large instrument, this is all our heritage. This is our feature. You are one of the rare specialists we call multi-instrumentalists. In general, to be a multi-instrumentalist, how many instruments must a person play? And how many instruments have you mastered? That is what my colleagues call me, but I don't call myself so. I believe that being called a multi-instrumentalist is a responsibility and a duty. This is not so much a praise as a serious commitment. There were moments when, after graduating from the conservatory, I wanted to leave this sphere. I thought I wouldn't succeed. In the era of globalization Western culture is ahead, it must be admitted. I thought that I would not be able to resist this and that my life simply would not be enough for me. My predecessors have done great things and I thought that I could not do the same. Therefore, I wanted to quit it all. But seeing whether and what our culture lacks, I decided that I needed to make some contribution. So I had to stay. I try my best to do something to popularize these instruments. Therefore, being a multi-instrumentalist is a big responsibility. Secondly, it is also an honor, because there is some kind of thread that connects me with national values. We are living amid all this. This is an honor for me, not a praise. And how many instruments do you play? Professionally, I started with the violin. I play the dombra, I sang traditional songs. I play the guitar. Since I am a composer, we need to play the piano. In addition, I play shankobez, jigachkobez, saz sernai. Sometimes I play bass dombra, sherter. If you have any pieces written for dombra, would you play them for us? Let me play an excerpt from the work Alash Amanate.
қазір қазақ ұлттық
Is it possible to say that the repertoire of Kazakh national orchestras is rich enough? Overall, how acute is the repertoire issue?
Егер де саны жағына келетін болсақ, бай деп айта аламыз.
In quantitative terms, we have a rich repertoire, but quality is worth considering. Let's not go far, but take the composers who work among us. I can point out Aytkali Jaimov, who did a lot. His son, Arman Jaim, is also a professional composer. Therefore, I can say that the Jaimov family makes a huge contribution to the Kazakh national culture, in particular to the orchestral direction. It alone is not enough for the country. I have always dreamed that people like Aytkali Jaimov would be in every region. There are other strong composers as well. Yermurat Usanov also works a lot on the development of orchestral music. We have such great personalities. Their works are long-lived. In addition, there are young people who write for orchestras, but unfortunately, after one or two performances, they are not taken seriously. You create works too. Do you process it for a long time before submitting a work to the audience? Does it ever happen that your works are not released at all? Before presenting it to the public, I think for a long time. You can't go on stage right away. The listener should say only words of gratitude. Therefore, I pass it through many filters. Give it to connoisseurs to listen and only then present it. I pay great attention to this. I dream that my works will exist for a long time. Do listeners come to the concerts of ethno music? You have to be able to satisfy the preferences of the audience. In that case, they will come to your concert. Otherwise, it is our mistake, not the listeners. Audience now receive a lot of things from all sides, and they do not even have a filter, so they simply cannot be guilty of this. People do not think about the fact that something can influence them incorrectly. The listener perceives everything, and as a result, it turns out that the taste is not formed. Therefore, when national works are not promoted for a long time, they may think that pop songs are our main value. A work that was not born from the depth of thoughts can spoil the psychology of the people. The life of such works is usually short. But in this short time, it will still be able to influence. Traditional music, which has lived for centuries, is our value. It will never disappear. One time you wrote modern songs, but now you seem to have stopped doing it. Is it so? No, I have not stopped. In that case, let's listen to one of those modern songs that intertwines with traditional music. There is a work, Shashu, which was created for celebrations and festive events. It is dynamic. There is also an arranged version, but it cannot be sung with dombra alone. Like this.
Тамаша, тамаша.
Great. When you were in Atyrau, you created the Sarmat ensemble. Now in the capital, you lead the Astana Sazy ensemble at the Qazaq concert. You are leading two teams at once. What is the difference between them?
Екеуінің репертуары.
The repertoires of two ensembles are different and the directions are different. They are not alike, and the works of one team do not fit the other. Sarmat is closer to the ethno direction. Astana Sazy works in modern direction. When I gave a concert in the Central Concert Hall, Kazakhstan, and performed with both ensembles, I wanted to show their difference. That was the goal. In this case, let's listen to excerpts from the performance of the Sarmat and Astana Sazy ensembles and continue our conversation. Several years have passed since you moved from Atyrau to the capital. Has its spirit inspired you?
Оған бір дәлел келтіре кетейінші осы домбырасы бар мен. Мынау бізде мынандай бұрын енді
Of course. I will give an example with Dombra. Earlier, the city of Nur Sultan was Astana, and I periodically came here, prepared performances, created musicals and left. Every time when I arrived, I noticed new buildings. The places that I had seen before changed beyond recognition. I was always amazed at this. This inspired me to create Astana Sazy. Another basis of my work is the song of Bekbolat Tleokan, written together with Yelbasi Nursultan Nazarbayev, Elim Menin, and I took the music and turned it into Kui. That's it. In the middle, Kilkobez joins.
Қылқобыздың деген орта бөлімдері бар. Деген тұстары бар. Қылқобызбен Састанайдың аспаптары бірігіп жүретін дегендей.
In these places, instruments such as Kilkobez and Saz Sirnai are played together. If the Dombra repertoire spread throughout the world, then people would accept it like honeybees. Jazz, rock are performed on the same level. The peculiarity of the QE is that with every beat, it changes. Dombra is very rich and the themes are multifaceted. If it appears on the world stage, it will definitely find listeners. My work with Dimash Kudaibergen began with his performance at the I'm Singer project in China. I arranged all the pieces from the fourth round to the end. At that time, I was in Atirao, and after that I came here. At that time, I did not have a goal to move to the capital, and I received an invitation and arrived. I tell him, Dimash, you showed the Kazakh songwriting art to the world, and I want to show the Kazakh instrumental art to the universe. Thank you for the interview. We wish you good luck in all your endeavors. Thank you. That's the end of our program. You can watch the full version of the interview on the Qazaq TV channel on YouTube. See you.